Hello everybody, welcome back to Conor here, Leeds TV. Hope you're doing fantastically well. Hope you enjoyed the day of Championship football. And we're here with your review. What we're going to do is going to slightly go over the games and where that means, certain teams are and all this sort of stuff. And we're just going to move forward from there because obviously Leeds United fan, I don't look at many results. But here we go. Hull City 2, Reading 1. Good win for the Tigers once again. Let's have a look who scored. It's another good win for Hull, and it's Jared Bowen, the man who somehow they've kept hold of throughout the window. It's an excellent win against the Reading side, who, they've brought in some decent transfers during the window as well. So him and Bowen and Jackson Irvine getting the 2 goals for Hull City, a response from Lucas João, who actually scored in his debut, which is pretty crazy, actually. João, an interesting let-go by Sheffield Wednesday. I wouldn't have let him go personally. I think he's a decent player. João obviously scored against Reading last weekend. Big, powerful lad. Really impressive. But yeah, an interesting one by Wednesday, but it's another good result for Hull City, and they're ultimately going to be able to build on that with Bowen and Grzycki in the side. I can't believe they managed to keep hold of them, to be honest. 14 shots, 13 shots for Reading, so it seemed like a bit of an equal game as well. Looked at the highlights a lot, earlier on. It did look like Reading had a lot of the ball, but they weren't able to put it away, and it's a good result for Hull. That a really good steady result. And then the next game, obviously, we had West Brom versus Millwall. A really good point there for Millwall. Magnificent point. Obviously, we look at Mahoney on one side. He's able to deliver those balls for Matt Smith to gobble up all day, and it looked like that happened yet again. 10 shots to Millwall's 9. It looked like Millwall were in the game as well. A good performance from Neil Harris's men. Maybe they're going to be getting back to that early Millwall. That Millwall that first came into the Championship, that was dangerous, that finished high up. It's going to be really interesting to see Millwall throughout the season, but it's a good point for them. 2 points dropped, I'd say, for West Bromwich Albion massively. I mean, you've got to be, for me, winning those games, especially if you want to be, up there with the big boys. West Brom faltering there. It looks like in front of goal, they still haven't been able to tick it, really get it going and stuff like that. It looked like they dominated the game. 595 passes to Millwall's 224, but Millwall, as they always do, always seem to find a way. So yeah, an interesting result there. The next game, quite a surprise for me, actually. Derby County 0, Swansea City 0. I thought this would be a Derby win, I really did, but it looked like the Swans were very resilient during this game, and it looked like, once again, it was quite an equal game. A lot of shots by either side. Not many efficient shots, not many getting on target and stuff like that, working the keepers. 3 for each side. And it looked like a very equal game. The lineups were as they were the previous week after, Derby got that brilliant win at Huddersfield, but it's one of those where it was end to end, really, how I'd describe this game after watching the highlights. They've still got a decent team. Swansea obviously converted Matt Grimes from a left back now into the centre defensive of midfield. One of those where are we going to see that? Are we going to see that? We're going to need a little bit more in that midfield from Swansea. It looked to do the bits today, with Fulton in there as well. Jake Bidwell obviously converting to their left back now, but I think Swansea will do all right this season. They've got a good balance in the squad. They're not going to pull up any trees, but it was a good result for them yesterday away at Derby. Anything away at Derby is going to be a good result. Then we had the shock of the day for me. Charlton 3, Stoke City 1. Magnificent from Charlton. Once again, Lee Bowyer defying the odds week in, week out. Doesn't need money, doesn't need backing, just needs the players at his disposal. 3 excellent goals, 3 excellently worked goals as well. Lyle Taylor getting the first, Anike getting the second, and Gallagher getting the third. The response from Tom Ince made it 1-1, but obviously Charlton grew and got stronger at the Valley. They had a great record at the Valley towards the back end of League One, continuing that form. Listen, they have from last season, haven't they? The Sunderland win at Wembley, Blackburn as well, away from home, and now going back to the Valley, winning 3-1. Charlton are on some absolute form at the minute, and they're definitely ones to watch. Whereas Stoke, I'm not 100% what's going on with Stoke. I really don't know what's going on there. I tip them to be in the top 6. Maybe they will. Maybe they've just not got to that, the levels that they need to be with Jones in charge. I don't feel like they've really taken to his playing style, and maybe that is what they're struggling with at this moment in time. But, 3-1 away at a promoted side, a very good promoted side, let me give you that. But Stoke side, they should be running away with this. Let's have a look at the lineups there. Some key players for for either side. Obviously, Lyle Taylor, Johnny Williams been the key figurine there as well. Lecco, who they've brought in. Lecco's a great signing. You know, someone who can start week in, week out. Someone who can absolutely hurt oppositions as well. Really, really hurt oppositions. Very interesting and very good signing by Lee Bowyer there for me. But I thought they'd have been able to get at the likes of Jason Pearce and Purrington, not Pennington, down that left-hand side, but they weren't able to. Tom Lockyer, obviously a great season for Bristol Rovers previous, has come into that Charlton side and done a really good job alongside Pearce. But, you know, the likes of Lee Gregory, Scott Hogan, who you forget's there, Tom Ince, Sam Clucas, you think that Stoke would be able to hurt them. They didn't, and Charlton were able to cut through at will. A really good performance. Then another really interesting one as well was Cardiff 2, Luton 1. I wasn't sure how this game would go. I did probably think that Cardiff were going to edge it, and they did in the end, but Luton are a resilient team, and it looks like this championship season isn't going to be one where teams run away with it. You know, Cardiff struggling till the 96th minute when new signing Isaac Vassell was able to break the deadlock and break the Hatters' hearts, really. Flint getting the first one, obviously from a corner or a set piece, which is where Flint's always going to profit from. Luton getting the equaliser through Pearson, and sort of the signature goal from Isaac Vassell, which really tainted a really good performance from Luton down there, and a really good result it'd have been, and they can leave going against a team who were 2 leagues apart from them last season with their heads held high. Then we got on to Sheffield Wednesday, Barnsley. I managed to get quite a lot of this game, and this was just an absolute battering for me. Barnsley weren't really in the game. They had 2 or 3 really good opportunities, which they squandered. But Sheffield Wednesday were dominant throughout. They were able to control the possession. They were able to dictate the play, winning every 50-50 ball. And it looked like men versus boys. Obviously, Barnsley coming into this league with a lot of hope, a lot of promise. You know, a lot of the youngsters being touted as sort of the next big thing, but I think they lost it in midfield in this game. You know, Marriot and McGeehan were absolutely overrun by the likes of Kieran Lee, who was absolutely excellent. Sam Hutchinson coming in, and you look at this Wednesday side now, you know, Forestieri out, Westwood out of this game as well, you know, 2 big players there. Obviously, Barry Bannon missing as well, and they were still able to churn out a result like this against a decent Barnsley side. I think it's a bit of a reality check for Barnsley, to be quite frank. You know, you look at this game and you think to yourself, you know, they obviously thought that they'd played well against Fulham, but probably similar to the side I'm going to get onto in a bit. They weren't able to convert the chances. You know, Collie Woodrow had a decent chance. I'd say it was a decent chance. It was more of a half chance for me. I thought it was a decent save from the keeper, but you couldn't have expected more from Woodrow there. He had to hit it when he hit it. And Wednesday, they had 3 or 4 really good chances. Adam Reach, you know, Luongo as well, who should have scored. Good debut for him, you know, when he came on in the second half. And I feel Wednesday could have run riot with this if it wasn't for Radlinger in net for Barnsley. So they got away with them one, but a really good win for Sheffield Wednesday there against sort of an informed Barnsley side from that first game. Then we move on to Barnsley's victims really from that first game. Fulham getting the first 3 points of the season against the Blackburn Rovers side. You know, there you go. Fulham's first 3 points there. Tom Kearney and Mitrovic, probably the 2 players that are going to make the most impact this season for Fulham, getting off the mark. Really good win there for Fulham. Obviously, Blackburn still yet to get off the mark. They need to get Bradley Dack into it a little bit more in these games. It seemed a little bit strangled here. The quality of Fulham really did, you know, it came through. It came to fruition. No shots on target for Blackburn, which tells you the whole story, but only 2 shots on target for Fulham. Absolutely clinical in that game. So a really good result for Fulham there. And then we move on as well to QPR versus Huddersfield. Huddersfield were leading this one for quite a while, and they managed to snatch an equaliser in the last minutes there, in the latter minutes to QPR. Once again, though, it looked like QPR had a really good game. You know, shots don't always tell the whole article of the game, but a lot on target, a lot of possession, and normally that's a really good indication of how well you've done throughout the game. Your transitions between the play. Looked like QPR had a really good game. Watched the highlights earlier on. They're unlucky not to win this game. Once again, Huddersfield still getting into this German style of play that the new manager has bought, obviously from the Dortmund setup, and it looks like it might take a little bit of while for the team to adjust to the Championship way of life. Really, even though they've only been out of it for a year, a really good result there for QPR and something that they should have built on, really. And then we go to the Blues versus Bristol City. Leeds' victims last week. Jukovic and Rowe, the new signing for Bristol City, getting the equaliser there. Looked like a pretty even game, to be honest. I think Bristol City came into it in the second half, but Blues, started the game off really well, really strongly. Obviously, the new signings, the new passage of plays looked really good. I think he's called Valahava or something like that. He played really, really well, linking up the plays with the new signings, Dan Crowley, stuff like that. And they look good, Birmingham. They look good for passages of play. It looks like they just don't have that cutting edge, which maybe an Isaac Vassell would have been able to provide for them, as we saw yesterday. Unfortunately, Isaac was sold on. Did Blues get a replacement in for him who was adequate? I'm not 100% sure they did. But Bristol City, on the other hand, a good second half performance. They came back out at the Blues and they were really strong in that second half performance, and you've got to give them credit for that. It looked like the season started in that second half for Bristol City. They really came strong. Tommy Rowe, the new signing, getting the equaliser. Good to see him off the mark as well. And in the 83rd minute, they managed to rescue a point. Worrying for Blues, maybe not being able to hold the game out at home as well, but we'll get onto a team who managed to do that as well at home yesterday. But Borough, Brentford, a really interesting game there. I didn't really know how this one would go after Borough's first game. It did look like they were quite unlucky, actually. Watkins getting the winner in the 54th minute. But Borough played well. I watched these highlights earlier on, and it looked like Borough played really well. Had a lot of the ball. Obviously, they're trying to play more dynamic, more explosive. And, Brentford struggled at moments, but they came back into the game. The Watkins 54th minute goal was a killer, really. Brentford grew a little bit in the second half, but Borough gave a really good account of themselves. Obviously, with this season being transitional, I think they're giving a really good account for themselves at the minute. Obviously they played really well at Luton, and I think it's going to take time for Borough. I think it's going to take time for them to adjust this new attacking style of football. They've been such a defensive team for years and years now. I think this transition will take a while, but Borough fans, stay patient. Regards to Brentford, that's getting them off the mark. The first game against Blues, they were very unlucky, but now they're off the mark. Now they're going to get going, and we'll see. I think we'll see a lot more from Brentford to come. And obviously the last game of the day, one that I can talk about a little bit more, obviously I've had a day to sort of reflect, was Leeds United's draw against Nottingham Forest. I don't think we should panic. I think the only resemblance of panic for me was the fact that it was sort of a similar performance to last year. I think that if you haven't checked our match reviews out, go check them out. But I think the overriding thing for me is that we weren't able to sort of shut the game out, which we did so well last season. I just felt Forest grew and grew and grew. The substitutions made no sense. Alioski coming on for left side, that should have been Clark or Costa earlier on for me. We'd have been able to hurt them a lot more. I don't think Robinson in particular would have been able to deal with Costa for 50, 60 minutes. I don't think that happened. So I think, you look at the first two times Costa got at him, Robinson couldn't deal with him, whereas I feel, with the wingers we had on initially, obviously, I think it was one of those where they were able to contain us quite well on either side. So it is one of those things where we move on. It's only the second game of the season, but, things do need to improve in that respect of his finishing. Patrick Bamford obviously been the main focal point. He was unlucky, but he should have scored, and we should have had a penalty as well. So at the end of the day, positives to take from the game. But Nottingham Forest, on the other hand, they weren't able to play the game. We restricted them. I thought they were quite poor. I thought they were a poor side, and I feel like we should have beaten them yesterday, but it's only our own doing and our own faults that we weren't able to. But, we'll have to move on with the punches, guys. Salford on Tuesday, then Wigan at the weekend. We bounce back and we'll be all good again, won't we? But I'd like to see Nketiah, I'd like to see Costa play much more of a pivotal part in this season, to be quite frank. Anyway, guys, if you've enjoyed this, make sure you leave a like in the comment section below. It's something a little bit different. Leave your comments as well. If you're from an opposition club, please press the subscribe button as well. And we're looking for sponsorships here on All Leeds TV. So if you are a local business in the area and want to get in contact, make sure you do via our email or our social handles. See you later, guys. Cheers.